Welcome back into episode 123. So in last week's video you saw me get those door cards finally on the car. As a note, the passenger side I was lacking some of the clips on the bottom, so every time I open it, it sort of drags along the on the sill. They arrive, so I'll fit those at some point in secrecy. You'll never know they were missing. In this week's video, what I want to try and do is tackle two jobs. One is my car doesn't know when to change gear. Well, it does, but it changes much too early. And the second problem is the speedo doesn't work. So I can't tell what speed it's changing at anyway. Obviously the tacho works, so I can see the revs, and it seems to be changing at about 4,000. I assume it should be changing much higher than that. So that's what we're going to tackle this week. As ever, thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the videos, click the subscribe button. There's now 122 other videos to go back and watch, covering all ranges of 9 to 8 goodness. And click the like button and leave some comments for me as well, please. I enjoy the comments, so please do leave comments. But let's just dive in and see what I get up to. Another thing that's been annoying me for ages is the speedo doesn't work. Now I suspect it's the that sort of circuit board on the back of the cluster. I know the speedo itself works, so I've had that out on the bench and got it all working. But in preparation for me actually going back to the cluster and looking at that, and there's something coming up on that, the whole back of the cluster soon, what I want to do is sort of check whether the sender in the back of the boot is working, because you never know, that maybe that's broken. It lives, if I sort of zip you around there, then go and have a look. So this is, mine's a 79 car, which I think are all slightly different around the back here. It's these connectors here, it's the 6-pin connector, that one, and it's pin 1 and 2, so it's these two. There's a brown and a green wire coming, so it's that thin cable, hopefully you can see that, coming into this pin 1 and 2. So I'm going to break it apart and actually test. All the sensor does there is a little reed switch with a magnet on the diff that, as it rotates, it closes the reed switch. So what we should see is a closed circuit. I think it's 8 times per revolution. So I'm just going to put my multimeter on there and reverse backwards and forwards and see if it closes. Reading the circuit diagram, I think call it current flow diagram, is a little bit of a black art, to be honest. Luckily I've looked over it so many times, I kind of know roughly what I'm doing. What I tend to do is start from a known position, which in this case I'm going to start from the speedo. And I've just scrolled to the correct page. You see speedo on here. This is the, if we just scroll down a little bit, the mileage reset comes in. Obviously the speedometer has the mileage in there as well, so it has a few more extra bits and bobs. But the bit of interest is in here. If I just zoom in, see the speedo is grounded here, comes up, here's the live, and then this is the variable, or the feed into the speedo that will change change what the needle points to. So we follow that up, it's on L1, so at the back of the cluster there are 3 connectors, one on the left, middle and right. So this is the L1, which is, if there are 3 of them, I've only got 2 hands, but what left, middle and right, it's this connector, and it's on this side is number 1, L1. That comes out, that will be a blue and red wire that goes all the way to the fuse board into H1. So you could test at H1 and that will be that same wire. Where are we? Here. So H1 comes out, if you look, H1 comes across, and you've got H2 comes across as well. That's actually the earth, the ground, that comes all the way back, comes up here, all the way across to the speedo here. Sorry, I skipped that the first time. So those 2 wires come up and they shoot off the side. That's not a wire, that's the casing. They sort of show it as like this, the boundary of everything. So those 2 wires are these 2 wires down here, these 2 wires here. This again is the casing. So the 2 wires come into T1 and T2, so in the fuse board, you could test there and that would be the same wires. They come down, so this is the wire that goes, I don't know if it goes under the car or through the middle of the car, probably comes inside the car actually, I doubt it goes underneath. Through all the way to the back of the car into where the spare wheel goes. So it tells you that there's a connector, a 6-pin connector, and these 2 wires are number 1 and 2. And those 2 wires then, green and brown, go down to the speedometer sensor. And this shows you that there is, actually you can, I don't know if it's that correct, the diagram, but that probably will have, I can't zoom anymore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 magnets and a little reed switch. So when it turns, it will click this shut and the speedo will get a signal. So set this to the beeping mode, and then what I'm going to do is reverse the car back a little bit and see if it beeps. The other pretty crude test I can do is, now this connector goes off to the speedo, so if I just put 2 wires in and sort of tap them together, what I'd expect to see is the speedo sort of jumping up and down a bit. I can't remember if these cars have 8 magnets per revolution or 4, but either way I can tap that, relatively quickly, and certainly enough for 4, 5, 6 times a second. So it should be 1 revolution of the wheel, which should be a certain number of miles per hour. I'm not seeing anything move on the speedo at all, so I'd say that also not only do we have a problem here back at the magnet on the diff there, we also have a problem up at the cluster, which is no real big surprise. So like we saw in my car, I was in the boot at this connector. I tested, I put my multimeter on these. It's actually set to beep when the circuit was closed, and there were no beep. So I suspect this is not working. I'll get under the car later and we'll have a look. And then I tested, obviously I pulled this apart, I tested just tapping these 2 wires together, looking at the speedo, and there was no flickering on the speedo either. So I think there's a problem up there as well. I think what we'll do first though, we'll investigate this speedometer sensor and see if we can get that working with my multimeter. 2 quite nice jobs to do today, both of them in the back there. I want to look at the Bowden cable where it connects to the gearbox, give that a few turns in one direction or another to see if we can change the gear change point. It's currently at about 4,100. I'm guessing it should be about 5,000, 5.5, something like that. I presume you don't want it to go all the way, always go to 6,000 RPM. And the speed sensor. So I want to get around the back there and just see if the speed sensor is connected. I was going to put it on ramps. I was going to do an elaborate video of me turning the car around and getting up on ramps. What I'm actually going to do is just jack the rear up and put it on axle stands, and then I can spin the wheel and we can check if the speed sensor is working. Right, first things first, the speed sensor is just on the back of the diff there. I can see the wires snaking off around the sides. You can see it, that one. I need to check there, okay. What I'm going to do is put my multimeter back up there on the connectors in the boot and pass a very strong magnet over the back of this and see if it connects. If it doesn't, then I'm pretty sure that I need a new sensor here. All the wires in between are broken. I'm going to just pull the 6-pin connector apart. This is the speed sensor coming in pins 1 and 2. I'm just going to put my connectors on there. 1 and 2, like that. Multimeter set to the beepy one. So we know it's working. And connect it up like that. Okay, so now I've got this huge magnet that pretty much sticks to everything. So I'm going to put that across the back of the reed switch speed sensor, and let's see if it beeps. Yeah, there's no beeping there, so I think we can conclude that that speed sensor is faulty. I'll take it out, we'll get it out the car and we'll have a look on the bench. Right, I think that's enough on the speedo. I have ordered a new speed sensor, the little thing that goes on the back there. Well, it's not new, it's from Robert Luxury Car Spares. So I'll get another one of those and we can see what's wrong with that. I haven't actually managed to take it out of the car yet. I will at some point. And I suspect that I know my speedo dial works, so I think it's the flexible circuit on the back there. And there'll be a video about one of those, the flexible circuits coming up, probably not too far away. So I'm going to pause the speedo work until then. Let's go look at the Bowden cable. I'd love to know why my car's not changing, you know, right up high RPM when you're trying to go some. But let's just have a look and see what I can find. Right, I've managed to squeeze my arm down now the airbox is out the way and pull the Bowden cable off. If I can pull it up and show you, it's deep in here. Right, it's this one here. Now, I don't know if you can see from there, if I move my arm, there is no adjustment on that at all. That is just a cable, sort of crimped on or whatever. I'm going to go back under the gearbox then and have a look at that end, because I don't see any way of adjusting that up here, unless, actually I'll pull it out, but unless it adjusts at the clamping, which is, I can't really show you, but just under there. I think actually I'll pull that out and we'll have a look at that first. So that's it there. That is just a pressed on end of the cable, what you're going to call it. That doesn't have any adjustment on that at all. I go back under the car then. This is the gearbox sump, so you know where we are. I struggle to know which cable that comes from the front, the Bowden cable, connects to where on the gearbox. So what I've done is wire or tie a bit of rope around it. That's the lamp laying on the floor so I can add some light. Tie a rope around the Bowden cable in the engine bay, and I'm going to pull it, and hopefully you can see up the back there what I can see. So make sure you can see, but I'm pulling it and it's pulling, there's a cable right up the top there. So I know I've got the right cable now. It's tucked right up the back behind that springy cable. So let's see if I can get on the adjuster. Right, so as usual I rush in and do it wrong. Bowden cable changes the kickdown point on this car as far as I can tell. Under the under the gearbox on the side of it, I can feel the cable. I can see that it moves a fraction, and basically that must just be the kickdown. Looking, there's a little adjuster on I think it's like a pressure modulator on the side of the gearbox that I'm going to take off in a second, and you click it around, and I think that's why she changes it. So I've put the Bowden cable back on with a little bit of fighting. I'm going to fit all this stuff back in here. And then we'll go around the back and have a look and see if we can adjust the actual change point of the gears. Right, so I've put all the engine and the airbox back together, Bowden cable reattached. Now I'm looking at this little thing. This is I think it's a pressure sensor. And when you think about it, it's logical that the connector on this, the pipe on this goes all the way back up to the engine. And it's the one I fitted. I had to remake a lot of the pipe work. It's the thing that clearly will increase with revs, the vacuum, and this can sense it and know when to change gear. So I had a quick look at actually in the workshop manual. I'm just checking I'm on the right thing. And as I understand, there's two little clips I just squeezed together and it should come off. I might move the camera because I don't know whether it's going to pour oil out, so let's just move you a little bit. Right, it's quite tricky to show you, but hopefully you might be able to see my screwdriver going in. So to adjust this, what I need to do is there's a little end bit. I've obviously pulled off the connector, which you saw a second ago. That end bit, there's a little tiny bit in the middle, it's like a screw or an adjuster. You just pull it out, rotate and push it back in. I can't sort of do it live because it's a bit fiddly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate mine 1/4 of a turn clockwise, and we'll see what that does to the gear change. Right, you know the routine by now. I've adjusted the gearbox. We'll see, take it out for a drive, warm up, see whether it changes gear differently. I've got a camera sort of set up on the tacho so we can see what it's doing. But let's get the car started. I'll reverse out. I'll show you when we're driving and the car's all warmed up. Starts quite happily. Now interestingly, I had the airbox off. I think I'll show you some footage of that. When I reseated the airbox down, I noticed it doesn't fit very well on the big MAF sensor, I guess it is, don't know, the MAF plate, whatever it is. So I've put some very thin silicone hosing in there as a seal and bolted down on top of that, and it made a really good seal. So I'd be interested to see if the engine runs happier, because now there must be less air sort of creeping in. I always expect to hear something break as I reverse out, or a cat squeal. I think we might be okay. Car's not been out now for probably a couple of weeks, perhaps, something like a couple of weeks. Starts quite well, it always seems quite happy. Put the windows up, it's quite windy. That windscreen motor, window motor, actually is really quiet now. Quite comically quiet. Whereas before it was really whiny when I had it out and all the door card off. Now it's all encased in door card, it's really quiet. If you remember on that, I forget the proper name, the pressure modulator thing on the side of the gearbox, wherever it's called, I took the key out and I turned it a quarter of a turn clockwise, I think I said. It was, when the car was warm, it was shifting, you know, wide open throttle, so flat on the floor. It was shifting at about 4,100 RPM. So what we do, we just take the car out, warm it up nicely, and then do the same test and just see where it shifts. I'd be really interested if the shift has changed at all, gone up, gone down, or whatever. But this is good test to find out what we're getting for each quarter of a turn. And I'm running now with the silencer on, so I've taken the straight pipes off and put the silencer back on. It's a bit boomy, about 1500, which is where we are now roughly. It's a bit boomy, but it's definitely quieter, a bit more refined. In many ways I prefer it. It sounds a bit more like a original 928. But we'll see. I like to chop and change. What I might try and do is lengthen or shorten the pipe and see what effect that has on the boominess, just as a bit of research, a bit of fun. Right, so it's not super warm, the engine, but I'll open up a little bit more down here so we can see what it's going to do. Make sure it is actually changing. Like part throttle. So change part throttle, change at 3,000. It's not fully warmed up yet, so I don't want to sort of go hammering it around, taking it right up through the rev range just yet. So I think another good test be to just check kickdown. So I'll stab my foot down now, there's nothing around, I've got a bit of distance up front, so let's just see what the revs do. Yeah, it changed down. Interesting, so it does kick down. That was nice. I wouldn't say it was the quickest kick down, but it did kick down. Well, there's a great little roundabout here that I go round. Oh, actually, this is the estate I drive around with the noise exhausts on. So let's give this a bit of a go. I'll take the window down for you. This as well. It's a really quiet, thin little housing estate. It's up there. Yeah. Car, if you compare that with when I drove down here before, it's much quieter. Almost subdued. Okay, and then out of here we'll do our wide open throttle, you know, flat on the floor, see when it changes gear. Make sure there's no one in front. Go. so not a significant change. I'll take it back. I'll do one more test in a second, but take it back, we'll change it a bit higher or a bit more and see what we get again. Right, I've just got back from that drive. I'm never sure whether the in-car videoing is good or it's jumping around too much, so I'll give you a quick recap. I would say the shift point is exactly the same. It's somewhere between 4,000 and 4,200. So I am going to go and read up about that and just make sure I'm adjusting the right thing. Assuming that I am, and I'm pretty sure I am, I'm going to adjust it another quarter of a turn, try it, and just keep going around like that until I get a clear indication which direction I'm changing it, because I don't know yet. Kickdown does work. I've tried that a number of times. I've done it from a standing start and just driving along. It's very happy just to drop down into second from third. I haven't seen it drop from second to first, and I don't know whether it is supposed to. Leave me a comment if you know about that, but I don't think it is. I think it's probably correct. Although when I did it from a standing start, I've got a feeling it was actually in first gear then, which it very rarely seems to be in. Engine seems super happy. As I mentioned somewhere along the line, I resealed the airbox down onto the big, I think it's a MAF airflow plate, whatever you want to call it. There's a big sort of cylindrical thing in there. It wasn't seating very well, so I've put a little bit of silicone hose around there, which fit perfectly, and it forms a really nice seal. That all seems to seal up quite well, and the car seems quite happy. Just pop it in park. It drives well, it's not been coughing and spluttering. Revs up quite quick now actually. It's 4,000 RPM very quickly. I've noticed I've got a little creak coming from this front suspension, which I'm going to jump out and just bounce up and down a little bit and see if I can at least hear where it's coming from. Revs take quite a long time to come back down to idle, I noticed as well, but nothing crazy. But yeah, not a bad test. Right, I'm going to leave it there. What a mess this week. It's very difficult to find any real information about what governs the gear change point on these cars. You know, obviously I went off thinking that it was the Bowden cable, and I can look at the mechanism and I can't see how that would do it on its own. Then I went on to that pressure module thing, and then subsequent reading I managed to find some information about that, and that changes the softness of the gear change, not the RPM of the gear change when it changes gear. So I may carry on playing with that because mine's quite soft how it changes, so I may go extreme and just tighten it up and see what it's like and then wind it back a bit. But that's another thing. As I say, it's very hard finding information. Digging around, what I think it does is sort of a combination of everything. And I've got to go under there again, I need to get the back of the car up again, but I think on the Bowden cable it pulls a little lever like this, and there's a stop here, a little bolt with a locking nut and stuff. And I think that needs adjusting. So I'm going to get the car up and get under there at some point. I'll do it off camera, and if it's good, I'll record it and let you know. But yeah, I can't find anything else. Anyway, what a load of fun. Actually quite enjoyable though, I like looking around there. The other thing I need to sort is that leak on the transmission, because it's very oily back there. That's the sump. I need to nip those back up. I'm trying not to over tighten anything. And I forget the torque setting, but they're very, very low. It's like 5 Newton meters or something. But I'll nip them all up, wipe it down, and we'll see if that stops it. Anyway, as ever, thank you for watching. Click the like, click subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll see you next week.